Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I will be screening in this side porch. Here's how the area currently looks like. The opening is about 85 inches tall by 112 inches wide. I started off by removing all the junk, and then I used the chisel and the hammer to remove the tile. So I started off by using a 1x4 to get this area as flush with the brick as I could, and I did it on this side and this side as well. After I cleared the area, I then used my miter saw to cut down one 4x2 for the base of the frame. I used a 3/16 masonry drill bit and drilled 2 holes into the base on each side. I then used 2 3/4 Tapcon screws to secure the base in place. After I had my base in place, I then cut more 4x2s down the sides for the top and vertical post. For the top post, I secured it to the ceiling studs. For the vertical post, I added 2 pocket holes on the top and bottom of each post, and then I used 2.5-inch exterior screws to secure the wood to the base and the top. Once the 2x4s were in place, I then repeated the same process for the 2x3 wood posts. I wanted the screen to appear inset, which is why I added 2x3s, but you can skip this step altogether if you don't care about that. For the 2x3 posts that would be positioned vertically, I attached them to the 2x4 posts using 2.5-inch screws. And then for the 2x3 posts that were positioned horizontally, I added 1 pocket hole on each side and then used 2.5-inch screws to attach them to the vertical 2x3 posts. For the 2x3 posts on the bottom, I had to use my router to create a channel since the Tapcon screws stuck out from the 2x4 base. After I had the frame built, I then caulked using Dynaflex 230 and painted the 2x3 post using a Valspar solid stain in the color Darkest Night. And then for the 2x4 post, I painted them in the color Clove by Sherman-Williams. Once the paint had dried, I then started to install the screen tight system. I started off by attaching the screen tight base strip to the 2x3 post and then used 1 5/8 exterior screws to secure in place. I did the vertical pieces first and then the horizontal pieces, and I also used my jigsaw to cut it down, but you could also just use some sharp pruners. After I had the base strip in place, I then began to install the fiberglass. For the screen, it was recommended to use 0.175-inch spline, and then I also purchased a roller as well. All the supplies I used will be listed in the description below. When installing the screen, I initially just wanted to have one continuous piece of the fiberglass screen for the left and then another for the right, but I found it harder to work with, so instead I cut enough for the top 2/3 and then enough for the bottom 1/3. For the bottom 1/3 section, I was able to do that on my own. I just started off at the top and would pull on the screen to keep it taut. I installed the spline in the most inward channel and then used a roller to guide the spline into the channel. I found that pulling on the spline helped to get it into the channel a little better. For the top 2/3 section, I just had my sister help me pull the screen tight while I installed the top spline, and then I was able to do the rest on my own. This step was definitely the most challenging just because you have to try to keep the screen tight. Plus, my roller wasn't really pushing the spline into the channel as well as maybe another roller would have done. After I had all the sections completed, I then used a utility knife to cut the excess away. For the last step of the screen tight system, I installed the screen tight caps. The caps come in white or brown. I just bought the brown ones and then spray painted them black and then used a rubber mallet to snap it into place. To make the door, I measured the top, bottom, and middle opening to find the width, and then subtracted 1 inch to get my door measurements. I cut my 2x4s to size and then added 2 pocket holes on each side of the horizontal boards. I then used a clamp to hold it in place, checked to make sure it was square, and then screwed in 2.5 inch exterior screws. I then routed out door hinges, installed the hinges, and then decided to go ahead and paint the front of the frame. After the paint dried, I then attached the screen using staples, making sure to pull tightly as I went, and then to cover up the staples, I then added trim. Off camera, I installed the door, and I'm currently just waiting on the doorknob. I'll eventually add some lights on either side of the door, but here's how the screen porch is looking like so far.